which is all about the $800 million the state of Oregon devoted to helping struggling Oregonians right now. And we're going to be diving right into your questions right off the bat. You see, after Monday's special session in Salem, during which lawmakers passed sweeping relief bills to help renters and landlords, etc., our viewers proved once again that your curiosity is our best tool. So we told Maggie Vespa, drop everything you're doing. We need you to spend all day digging through our inbox to get you some answers. And what a shock. She obliged.
Hey everybody, I'm Maggie Vespa and let's dive right in. Question number 1 comes from Lynn Edwards. She wrote, you've addressed the relief bill by the state and how it helps renters. What are they doing to help those behind on their mortgages? Lynn, that's a great question. And the short answer is the state has been helping property owners in a very similar way, but that help is about to run out. More specifically, alongside the eviction moratorium, Oregon also has a foreclosure moratorium in place to keep people behind on their mortgages from losing their homes. Governor Kate Brown implemented it via an executive order early on in the pandemic, and she's extended it multiple times, but it is set to expire on December 31st. There was talk of extending it in the special session on Monday, but to put it bluntly, lawmakers didn't get to it. An advocate with the Oregon Law Center told us, we were disappointed not to see the foreclosure moratorium extended in the special session, but advocates hope to work on that in 2021. In the meantime, there are still some federal protections in place. According to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, quote, for federally backed loans, your lender or loan servicer may not foreclose on you until after February 28th, 2021. For loans backed by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, they cannot foreclose until after January 31st, 2021. Lynn, we hope that helps. All right, on to the next question. Gail wrote, we live in Southwest Washington. It would be nice to hear about some of these same issues for unemployment, rent help, etc., like you talk about for Oregon. Does 211 work in Washington like it does in Oregon? Not all of us have cable access to hear what happens in Olympia. Gail, point taken. Great question. So, like Oregon, there is also a statewide eviction moratorium in place in Washington, and Governor Jay Inslee just, late Wednesday afternoon, extended it through March 31st. On top of that, 6 counties, including Clark County, have adopted what they're calling an eviction resolution program. It's funded by federal CARES Act money, and it will require landlords and tenants go through a series of problem-solving steps basically before eviction cases head to court. And to answer your last question, yes, calling 211 also works in Washington. All right, on to our last point. We've had a lot of people ask, under Oregon's eviction moratorium, basically what, if anything, do renters have to do to prove to their landlords that they can't pay? And the answer is not a lot. They have to sign this sworn document. It's a declaration of financial hardship, and it says the renter can't pay because of loss of income, increased cost of childcare, or something like that. But that's it. According to the Oregon Law Center, the only document that the landlord is allowed to require is the signed declaration. Renters do not have to provide additional documents or information. Now, earlier this week, I asked one advocate about concerns about renters defrauding the system and not paying when they actually can.
No, I know that the Community Alliance of Tenants issued a report this fall that shows that people go to extreme lengths to pay their rent, and they often skip, medicine, or they skip other food. And so I really am not concerned about people undergoing fraud. I think that most people are just trying really hard to do what they can. And honestly, when we set up all these barriers, we just basically set it up so that people end up not getting the services they need.
Now, starting next month, per a bill passed during the special session, the state will start reimbursing willing landlords for up to 80% of what they're owed in this back rent. If landlords take up the state on that offer, then they have to turn around and forgive the rest of the debt that the tenants owe. And basically, for the tenants, the slate is wiped clean. We've actually heard from a lot of landlords, though, who say that's not enough. One group sued the state of Oregon and Multnomah County this week, claiming the eviction bans violate the U.S. Constitution and arguing if officials are going to let tenants just not pay, then the government should cover all of the debts owed. Oregon's House and Senate leaders told us Monday night they do plan to work to cover that 20% gap in 2021, but for now, their take was 80% is a start. We hope that helps answer a lot of the questions that you had about these relief packages in Oregon and in Washington. And thank you so much to our viewers here on The Story for writing in. As always, keep the questions coming.